Okay, so get this right. Jonathan Van Ness, from Queer Eye,
Yeah, yeah.
ends up in a pro-Trump ad.
Ooh.
And it's like one of those, what?
Well,
Like, how?
right.
Jonathan Van Ness uses they, them pronouns.
Right.
Non-binary out there pro-Trump ad. Like, those two things don't go together.
It's kind of a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah, and that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating to me, right? Because Van Ness, they posted on their Instagram about it.
Okay.
And it was an ad targeting Kamala Harris.
Okay.
Particularly her stance on pronoun use.
Huh.
And they said the whole thing was surreal.
Yeah.
Kind of iconic.
Uh-huh.
But mostly very unsettling.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's the thing that really stuck with me, the unsettling part.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, it's got to be more than just seeing yourself in an ad that you don't agree with, you know? Think about it. Politicians using celebrities and public figures in attack ads. That's nothing new. It's supposed to be jarring.
Right.
It's supposed to grab your attention. And they want you to be maybe even uncomfortable enough to where you remember it.
Right.
But Van Ness is pushing back on that. Like, they're using their platform to actually make a statement here.
Yeah, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
Van Ness said, and I'm quoting here, they said the ad vilifies immigrants, trans people, and queer people.
Okay.
And then they link that back to what they call a white nationalist Christian ideology. And that's a pretty, that's a powerful statement.
It is.
It's kind of a scary statement in some ways.
And I think what's powerful about that is when they use the word vilifies,
Right.
that ups the ante. Like, you're not just saying that they're trying to make a point. You're saying that there's a deliberate attempt to make these groups seem like enemies.
Right.
And that type of language, I mean, unfortunately has a very long and ugly history.
Yeah.
Used to justify discrimination.
Absolutely.
Even violence, and then they tie that to white nationalist Christian ideology. So, I mean, they're really broadening the scope of what they're talking about, and they're saying this is something to be wary of.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is later on, Van Ness talks about how, as a non-binary person, whenever they're presented with a binary choice, they're immediately leery.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But then they come out in support of Kamala Harris. So trying to square that, right? Because it seems like, well, how can you be leery of a binary choice, but then make a binary choice?
Well, and I think what's interesting there is that they're pointing out the limitations of that type of thinking.
Okay.
You know, they understand that the world isn't black and white. It's not this or that all the time.
Right.
And so I think even though they might have reservations about that,
right.
they're also saying that in this particular case, for them, supporting Kamala Harris is the best way to move forward.
Right.
So it's not about necessarily saying I'm against all binary choices,
right.
but it's about choosing the option that most aligns with my values.
Yeah. It's picking a side, I guess.
Yeah, even within a limited framework.
Okay, so we've got them pushing back against this ad. They're talking about binary choices. And then they say something really interesting about Trump.
Okay, right.
And they call him an authoritarian dictator with absolute immunity.
Wow.
And they close with this idea of choosing hope over fear.
Okay.
And so, to me, it's like this whole experience becomes a springboard for a much bigger conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're taking a very personal and public experience, and they're highlighting what they see at stake in this election. Yeah. And it's not just about policies. Like you said, it's about values. It's about the direction of the country. And I think that phrase that you used, hope over fear.
Hope over fear.
That's a really powerful statement because it speaks to our emotions. It speaks to our desire for a better future.
Right.
And in a way, it's kind of a call to action. It's like, hey, when you're making your choice, think about the bigger picture.
Think about the bigger picture. So I guess I would ask you, what does this all mean to you? I think for me, Van Ness's experience was unexpected.
Yeah.
But it really does highlight something that I think is crucial.
Yeah.
And that is that even, seemingly bizarre events, right? Things that make you scratch your head, they can spark really important conversations.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's what I want to leave people with, right? What are those events that you encounter, right? Where maybe on the surface, they seem insignificant.
Right.
But if you really dig deep, there's a lot more there.
Totally. Like an iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. Like an iceberg.
Yeah.
So much more than meets the eye.